Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about the function of the pelvic floor muscles because many people have heard about the pelvic floor, but most people don't know all of the functions that the pelvic floor can do for us. And so most people are kind of thinking about it in terms of just seeing a Kegel exercise or a contraction of the pelvic floor. And that is just one of 5 different functions that the pelvic floor muscles do for us. So as a quick reminder, because we've talked about it before, here's our lovely pelvis. And anything that's in red down here is our pelvic floor muscles. And so they span from our pubic bone in the front to the tailbone in the back and across the 2 sit bones. And there's many different muscles that collectively make up the pelvic floor. So we refer to them collectively as a group there. And so those pelvic floor muscles have 5 main functions. And it's easy to remember because you can think of them as the 5 S's of pelvic floor function. So function number 1, sphincter. So think closure. Okay, so the pelvic floor muscles are there to keep the holes closed when things aren't supposed to come out. So these guys, sphincter, close off the anus and around the urethra so that we don't leak pee or poop. And so they need to be contracted in that situation, and then they also need to relax. So function number 1 is sphincter, so controlling the opening and closing of the urethra and the anus. Function number 2, stabilization. So saw the pelvis here. So anything that's in white here is this bony support. And you can kind of see that it is a ring, and this bony ring needs help being stabilized by the muscles that attach to it. So one of the things that helps to stabilize is the pelvic floor muscles on the bottom, because they attach around all the way around the bottom of the pelvic ring. So they provide stabilization from below to that bony ring, and they work together with our buttocks muscles, our hip muscles, our abdominal muscles, and our other the pelvic floor muscles coordinate with them to help stabilize that pelvic ring. All right, the third function of the pelvic floor is support. So we saw again, I just keep grabbing the pelvis here. So it looks kind of like a bowl here. Okay, so the pelvic floor is the bottom of the bowl, and those muscles are the bowl that holds up our pelvic organ fruit. So think of it in terms of our bladder, our urethra, our vagina, and our uterus, and our rectum and anus, all the fruit that are inside the bowl. And so that bowl of muscles provides the support so that we don't have our fruit falling out, because we don't want that to happen. So that is the third function, support. Fourth function, fun one, sexual. So our pelvic floor muscles are involved in our sexual function. So our pelvic floor muscles help with arousal, help with orgasm, and so they are key to a healthy, happy sex life. And so we want to make sure that your pelvic floor muscles are working well, both in their ability to contract, to relax, to move, so that we can optimize sexual function. So that's the fourth function. Fifth function is usually the one that most people kind of miss out or are unaware of, and that is the sump pump action, because people are probably like, what's that term? But the sump pump action, think of it in terms of the pelvic floor muscles help to move fluid in and out of the pelvic area. So that pumping action of the muscles contracting and relaxing helps to move blood and lymphatic fluid through the pelvic area. And so we need that muscle pump in action to happen to help that flow continue to happen throughout our body. Think about it when like you sprain your ankle and you're told to kind of pump your ankle up and down. That helps to move the swelling and the fluid out of there. Good, healthy pelvic floor function helps to move fluid in and out of the pelvic area. So there you have it. Those are our 5 functions, the 5 S's of pelvic floor function. So just as a recap, function number 1, sphincter function, closing the holes. Number 2, stabilization, helping to stabilize that bony ring. Number 3, supportive. It's the bowl that holds up our pelvic organ fruit. Number 4, sexual function. It helps with arousal and orgasming. And number 5, sump pump. The pumping action of those muscles helps to move blood and lymphatic fluid in and out of the pelvic area. So I hope that was helpful for people. I hope you learned a new function for the pelvic floor. And thanks for everyone who tuned in live. But if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Or if you have a topic that you would like us to talk about next time, we always are open to suggestions.